Let me start with something most cat owners know, even if they do not say it out loud. You think you own a cat. In reality, a lot of the time it feels like the cat is just allowing you to live there. You buy the food. It eats it. You buy the toys. It ignores half of them. You call its name. Sometimes it looks at you. Sometimes it does not. But the moment you get busy, it will sit right on your keyboard like it pays rent. And somehow, this is the animal humans turned into one of the most beloved pets on Earth. Cats were worshipped in temples, they were written into myths, and today they rule the internet without even trying. So what is going on here? Why do cats seem like the least cooperative animals, yet end up winning so completely? And why did humans let that happen? The answer is stranger than it sounds. It was never really humans who fully domesticated cats. It was cats, slowly and patiently, that figured out how to domesticate us. If we go back about 10,000 years, the story was a lot less romantic. This was when humans were just beginning to settle into farming. And once people started farming, a new problem showed up almost immediately: storage. You put grain into warehouses, stack up wheat and barley, and what looks like progress for civilization looks like an all-you-can-eat buffet to mice. More food meant more mice. And more mice meant trouble. That's when wildcats started appearing. From the cat's point of view, it wasn't really human civilization, they noticed. It was a hunting ground that never stopped restocking itself. In other words, cats were not summoned. They came because the place smelled worth staying in. Humans probably didn't even realize they had accidentally created the perfect environment for a small predator: steady food, shelter, and plenty of rodents as a bonus. That's also what makes cats different from many other domesticated animals. Dogs were shaped over generations through human breeding. Horses were controlled, trained, and broken in. Cows, sheep, and goats all became livestock under human management. Cats are different. Cats are more like they walked in, looked around, and decided, all right, this works. They did not say, I serve you. They said, you've got food. I'll stay for now. And that starting point shaped everything that came after. They were never the ones begging to be kept. They were the ones who arrived first, took what they wanted, and let humans slowly get used to them being there. At first, people's attitude toward cats was pretty simple. If you catch mice, you can stay, because the deal made sense. Fewer mice meant less grain lost. Less grain lost meant more food for winter. So the early relationship was pretty practical. You handle the rodent problem, I'll give you a little food. And please do not become my problem. But once cats entered human society, they stopped being just useful. They were too consistent. They didn't need the same kind of training dogs did. They didn't need the same kind of control horses did. They just stayed around and kept delivering a small but valuable service. And that kind of usefulness is exactly the sort of thing humans tend to turn into something bigger. You can really see that in ancient Egypt. Egyptians did not just like cats. They took them seriously. Cats became linked with gods, with protection, with the home, with family, with fertility, with safety. When a cat died, people mourned it. Some families shaved off their eyebrows to show grief. Cats were mummified and buried with food and offerings. By modern standards, that sounds extreme. But if you put yourself inside that world, it starts to make sense. People were not just being superstitious for no reason. They were responding to an animal that lived beside them for generations, helped protect their food, and always seemed to occupy this strange space between wild and familiar. Cats were like guardians. They were quiet, independent, low maintenance, and they kept the mice away. Once an animal becomes connected to safety, it stops feeling like a pet and starts feeling like part of the structure of life. And Egypt was not the only place where this happened. In some Asian cultures, cats were also seen as protective beings. In Norse mythology, cats even showed up alongside the gods. Different places, different traditions, different histories, and yet people kept arriving at the same basic conclusion. Cats are special. Treat them with respect. So really, it was not cats asking to be worshipped, it was humans, little by little, lifting them up. If cats only knew how to catch mice, they would never have gotten this far. What really made them dangerous, in a very funny way, was that they learned how to make humans emotionally dependent on them. And this is the part that is a little uncomfortable, but also very real. Cats are not always trying to be cute. They are often just perfectly pressing the right buttons in your brain. Take a cat's purr. Most people hear a cat purring and immediately feel calmer. Some people even get quiet without really knowing why. That is not imagination. Researchers have found that when some cats want attention or food, they produce what is often called a solicitation purr. It sounds like normal purring, but it also includes a higher, almost baby-like cry layered inside it. That matters because humans are biologically wired to react to infant distress sounds. In other words, the cat is not just making noise. It is using a sound pattern your brain is already built to notice. You might think you are comforting the cat, but a lot of the time it feels like the cat is comforting you, and the purr itself may help explain why. Cat purring usually falls in a low-frequency range that people often associate with relaxation and calm. Some researchers have linked those vibrations to lower stress and a slower body response. Then there is the face. Cats have facial features that are extremely good at triggering human sympathy. Their eyes, brows, and overall expression can make them look innocent, fragile, or in need of care. Part of that effect comes from a small facial muscle that helps raise the inner eyebrow area, making the eyes look rounder and more vulnerable. Humans are especially sensitive to faces with infant-like proportions, so this quietly activates the protective instinct almost immediately. And when humans see that kind of face, the reaction is almost automatic. Does it need help? Should I feed it? Should I pick it up? The cat doesn't even need to say anything. It just stands there, gives you the right look, and your emotions are already moving in its direction. I've had that happen to me too. One time I was busy and my cat jumped in and caused a mess. I was genuinely annoyed. Then a little later, as if nothing had happened, it slowly walked over, brushed its face against my hand, and curled up. And just like that, the whole mood changed. That's when you realize something. The cat isn't really fighting you. It's pulling you back into its rhythm. And the worst part is, you usually go with it. Plenty of animals are lovable. What makes cats different is that they create two feelings in people at the same time. One is, it doesn't seem to need me. The other is, it seems to choose me anyway. And that combination is extremely powerful, because humans are very susceptible to that. We like being needed, and we like being chosen. Cats are excellent at creating that feeling. They do not cling to you. They do not constantly ask for attention. They do not always respond right away, but every now and then they come close. They sit near you. They acknowledge you. They decide, in their own way, that they are going to stay in your space. That kind of relationship is a lot more complicated than simple obedience, and that is exactly why people get attached to it. There is also a real biology behind the bond. When humans and cats make calm eye contact or interact gently, oxytocin can rise in both of them. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone because it is involved in trust, attachment, and social comfort. Research from Japan has also suggested that cats learn their owners' emotional patterns over time. They can tell the difference between a relaxed voice and a tense one, which helps explain why cats often seem to know when the mood in a room has changed. A lot of cat owners eventually develop a very specific feeling. You know you are taking care of the cat, but somehow it also feels like the cat is setting the mood of the entire house. You come home from work, and it's there. You feel low, and it's there. You want peace and quiet, and it's still there. It may not say anything, but it takes up a position in your life. And over time, that position becomes hard to replace. That is why the cat's real power is not that it is obedient. It is the opposite. It keeps its personality, its pace, and its distance. But just when humans are most likely to soften, it gives a little bit of warmth. And that tiny bit of warmth is enough to make millions of people happily feed it, care for it, photograph it, post it, and talk about it like it runs the whole household. So the relationship between cats and humans is actually pretty fascinating. It is not really a story about the strong controlling the weak. It is not a story about humans successfully redesigning an animal either. It is more like this. A smart, independent, opportunistic animal found the perfect place for itself. It did not become completely dependent on humans. It did not fully leave them either. It stayed nearby, kept its distance, and remained present. And humans somehow absolutely loved that arrangement. So who domesticated who? On the surface, sure, humans kept cats, But if you think about it carefully, it often feels more like cats picked humans first, then patiently let us get used to the idea. You did not turn your cat into a pet. You were the one it chose. And the most ridiculous part is that after thousands of years of human evolution, we still seem completely fine with that. If you have a cat at home, you probably already understand. You can never quite tell whether you are keeping it company or it is keeping you company. Maybe that is what makes cats so powerful. They never rush to prove anything. They just sit there quietly and slowly make themselves impossible to live without.